Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you here today with an article from MRC Newsbusters, America's Media Watchdog, dated April 11th, and I'm sure you've seen this already, and it just appalled me when I saw this come out that it says fake news CNN insists there's only serious extremism on the right. That takes a level of ignorance or stupidity that's beyond possible, okay? Like, I don't even know how you can be that ignorant of it. And the guy who did it is the guy who interviewed, it's this dude down here, this guy in the picture here. His name's Donnie O'Sullivan. And just disregard anything he says about anything because he's just lying. That's what he does. It's on CNN, so double the lying, double the fun. But let's see what he says here because it's like, dude, just do you live in a cave? So the CNN supposed extremism expert, Donnie O'Sullivan, whom one could think of as Irish Brian Stelter, there you go, and with hair, to get a sense of their worldview. No, he's worse than Brian Stelter, actually, and Stelter ain't good. So he's joined Friday's CNN News Central to preview his latest report for Sunday's The Whole Story about political extremism and falsely claimed the issue very much so is on the right, but no equivalent on the left. My dude, you got it completely bass-ackwards. But, thanks for playing. Says, never mind that President Trump has faced 2 assassination attempts in the last year. House Republicans were targeted in June 2017 and nearly murdered en masse by an MSNBC viewer, or the rampant support by the American left for Hamas, a terrorist organization. Says this is CNN, one of the many networks eager to paint right-of-center Americans not only as wrong, but terrorists. And that's like, if he's going to say that right-wing extremism is such a thing, like, where are your examples over the last decade? I'll grant you Charlottesville, and January 6th is not an extremist event. Okay, it was a riot that got out of control, but you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'll give you that one too. Okay, so you got 2 examples of right-wing extremism that I am giving you. Okay, now let's go over to the left, and it's like, oh God, where do I start even in just the last week? What about all the Tesla dealerships that have been set alight? There's at least a half a dozen right there. So I win. Congratulations to me. Let's get back to the article. It says fill-in co-host Jessica Dean, whose husband worked for the Clintons back during their reign in Arkansas, tried to bring balance by telling viewers O'Sullivan's special will also provide people who consider themselves fans of Luigi Mangione, which is just another ridiculous thing. It says the alleged murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Nothing says I have morals like standing for a guy who shot someone in the back because I just don't like his company's positions on healthcare. Yeah, if you're standing for Luigi Mangione, you are not a good person, okay, and you don't have morals. The end. It says O'Sullivan played coy and didn't address the extremism on the left celebrating the murder. Yeah, there's one example on top of the Tesla dealerships going up in smoke that that we can add to the side of the left. So we're at at least 7-2. The left is winning, and that's just. And remember, this is just in the last the Tesla stuff, and this it's like in the last 3 months. We've gone, and we've already found more examples. So, all right. So it says, instead, that'd be Donnie O'Sullivan, declared that between January 6th and the August 2017 events in Charlottesville, there shouldn't be any suggestions there's serious extremism on both sides. Right, because it's on the left, dickhead. It says, when it comes to extremism in this country, the issue very much so is on the right. On the far right, from Charlottesville to January 6th. January 6th was not a far right thing. It was just regular people. Charlottesville, yes, that was far right. I'll give you that one. But again, those are the only... Listen, see, he's already bring up the only 2 examples he has. There's nothing else. So there isn't exactly an equivalent on the left in this moment. Yeah, okay, here, let's just go here. What would be the equivalent to that? You can say, yeah, there's probably no left equivalent to January 6th. Or is there? And this could be equivalent to Charlottesville too, and it would be, how about Antifa in the summer of 2020, basically trying to burn down every city they were in? What about the Portland, was it their courthouse there or whatever, that was under siege for 100 days? That's an insurrection, okay? What about May 29th in Washington, D.C., when Trump had to be taken to his bunker? No one seems to remember that. That would be a January 6th-like thing. The Charlottesville stuff could be more, related to Antifa, but it's this guy sitting here saying there's not exactly an equivalency on the left is just astoundingly stupid and ignorant, like I said. Let's get back to the article. It says, rewinding to earlier, Dean twice teased O'Sullivan's appearance and Sunday special, which will feature his interviews with the Godfather of 3D printed guns, pardoned January 6 rioters, and the Luigi Mangione fan club. I don't think it says here, but he had a part of, or I guess part of that, I didn't watch it, but it was with Taylor Lorenz, who, if you know the name, I'm sorry. If you don't know the name, don't bother looking her up. She's an absolute whack job of a journalist, and I use bunny ears around that. She's the person that doxed libs of TikTok, okay? And the reason libs of TikTok's name is actually public now is because of Taylor Lorenz. Taylor Lorenz is not a good person, and she's an ass reporter. So as having used the clip with a released January 6th defendant who threatened O'Sullivan's safety as the straw man for what CNN is up against, he said a special would air on the 30-year anniversary this month of the Oklahoma City bombing, of course, which was by Timothy McVeigh, who bombed the federal building in Oklahoma back in 1995. So to get a third example, he had to go back 30 years, okay, to get one more right-wing example. So that's 3 in 30 years. I mean, if and again, remember, our left-wing tally, is it at least, oh God, with all the other examples I brought up, we're going on to what? Like, we're in double digits already. So, and this is only stuff that happened in the last, not even decade. Okay, so this dude's got no leg to stand on here. As students of history would recall, that event was used then and now to censor and smear conservatives, such as the late Rush Limbaugh, despite no connection to McVeigh, because that's what they do. One conservative does something that, if he sniffs the air wrong, the liberal media is just, conservatives are horrible, and liberals can basically burn down cities, and it's like, oh, they're allowed to. Yeah, so that's how it is. It says, we're looking at is how, over the past 30 years, how the revolution in technology and social media, and also how we consume and share information, how really much more easier it is to be radicalized in America than it was 30 years ago, he explained. And he's got a point there. I'll give him that. Okay. It says O'Sullivan cited a racist and anti-Semitic novel, The Turner Diaries. I heard of it, but I don't really know anything about it, that inspired McVeigh as having been quite difficult to obtain in those days, whereas now, obviously, through social media, we know a lot of people, particularly young men, are getting all the sentiment served through the social media feeds. Who is sharing that? Okay, if it's such a bad book, who's sharing it? You know what? But that's part of freedom, is that things are allowed to be open for you to have. Okay? And when the society becomes more open, yes, you're going to be able to get certain things more easily. But again, connecting that to people these days and right-wing extremism that isn't actually happening, dude, you don't have an argument. You're trying to argue that 1 + 1 is potato and no one's buying it. So it says, in other words, the implication is there needs to be some level of censorship. That's where I was going to. Just so long as the legacy press are still allowed to do as they please. And never mind changing hearts and minds to turn them away from said hatred. And the CNN transcript says, click there. We're not going to do that, but that's the end of the article. So can you believe this guy right here? Again, can you believe this guy that he actually said, political violence is basically just happening on the right? And again, besides the examples that I gave, not including the Oklahoma City bombing, but Charlottesville on January 6th, I want somebody in the comments to provide me with any other examples of right-wing violence since Trump came down the escalator, okay, back in 2015. Anybody give me anything, okay? Maybe I missed something. It's entirely possible. But I would like to know what that is. And like I said, I've already gone over more examples of left-wing violence just in this video. Okay, then this dude even seems to think, or seems to know exist. But again, you can probably hear him a little pissed off about this because it's this is such obvious stupidity that it's just mind-boggling to me that they'd allow this guy to be on the air and actually be like, no, what he's saying is actually true. Again, this is just further proof that CNN is nothing but a propaganda network. And if they had any integrity at all, this guy would never be allowed anywhere near CNN ever again. They'd fire him for just being a moron. Anyway, I'm done. Rant over. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.